Everyone, welcome to a new lesson of robust control systems. What do you mean by a robust system? A robust system means which is insensitive to parameter variations or perturbations. In the basic control systems course, we have done PI, PID, controller design, etc. So they were all based on models, or rather, they were all model-based controllers. But no mathematical model can represent an actual system 100% exactly. There will be always an element of uncertainty or perturbations. So robust control system means we need to design a controller, and that controller, when implemented along with the system, should be stable and should give satisfactory performance even in the presence of plant perturbations or plant variations. So the topic for today is perturbations or uncertainties. What are the possible causes of different kinds of perturbations in a system, how they are classified, and how they can be represented in an engineering aspect. So let's look into the details. So the first task of a control engineer, in designing a control system is to obtain a mathematical model. That describes the actual plant to be controlled. Okay, but mathematical model of an actual system, always differ from the actual plant. Because of inadequate knowledge, of the system dynamics, and or differing system operating conditions. Okay, what do you mean by that? Say, for example, you are in a lab, you have made up an electric circuit comprising resistors, capacitors, etc. Right? What is Ohm's law? Ohm's law states that voltage across an element is proportional to current at constant temperature. Okay, so in the lab, assume that you are connecting a voltage source to an electric circuit comprising resistors, right? So after 10 minutes, what happens? The temperature starts rising up. Okay, so that means Ohm's law will not be valid anymore because temperature is not a constant. Okay, so voltage will not be proportional to current flowing to the resistance. Current will not be proportional to current flowing to the resistance. Okay, so that means we may be using a 5 ohm resistor there, but actually the resistance after 10 minutes may be 4.9 or can be 5.1 ohms. Okay, so that's a perturbation or the uncertainty there. Okay, so when the operating condition changes, the system mathematical model cannot represent the exact system. So we may be designing some controller based on 5 ohm, but actually the ohmic value may be 4.9 or it may be 5.1. Okay. These differences or discrepancies, are called uncertainties or perturbations. Okay, so however accurately you try to develop a model, there will be always a room for uncertainty or perturbation. Okay, so that means no mathematical model can represent an actual system 100% faithfully. Okay, there will be always a room for uncertainty or perturbation, which we need to take care of. So when we design a robust control system, it should take care of these perturbations as well, the perturbed plant as well. Okay, it should be stable, it should give satisfactory performance, not only for the nominal plant, but also for the perturbed plant. And they lead to operational problems such as performance degradation, and even instability. Okay, so a control system is said to be robust. A control system is said to be robust if it is insensitive to model uncertainties. If it is insensitive to model uncertainties. Okay, so that is what is called a robust controller, right? It must be insensitive to the model uncertainties or model perturbations. So let us now look at the possible sources of model uncertainties. Sources of model uncertainties. Okay. Uncertainty in a plant, uncertainties in the plant model may have several origins. First one, for example, parameters in the linear model. That could be one of the possible reasons for uncertainties. For example, the parameters in a linear model may be identified by the input-output data. Can be identified from noisy input-output data. Okay, so this data, how will be measured? Through sensors. There may be high frequency sensor noises. Okay, so the data that you get from sensor may be corrupted with high frequency sensor noise. So the actual input-output data that you obtain through a sensor will be corrupted with noise. So that could be one reason of uncertainty. Or sometimes the parameters of the linear model may be calculated from physical model. Okay, so sometimes we will try to obtain these parameter values by modeling the physical system. Okay, and in that process, by ignorance, we may do some data, and that will lead to another source of uncertainty. Okay, so parameters in linear model is one possible source of uncertainty. Then second one is non-linearities. Non-linearities in actuators and sensors. Okay, so when we did the first level of control system, we did all analysis for linear systems. Strictly speaking, linear time invariant systems. Okay, but keep in mind, practically all systems are non-linear. Okay, we do not have any linear system in the true sense. There will be always some non-linearity. Okay, so non-linearities in actuators or sensors can be another reason of uncertainty. Okay, say for example, they may saturate or there may be sensor actuator failure, etc. Okay, so actuator or sensor saturation, or they may fail, okay, etc. These could be another possible reason. Or, as I said before, the hardware, the resistance value. Okay, if you keep on changing the temperature and as day passes by, because of aging, it may lose its characteristics. Okay, so hardware can deteriorate over time. Hardware deterioration over time. Okay, so we may design a controller based on the fresh value, the fresh component, but over a period of time, because of aging, its characteristics may deteriorate. Okay, so that could be another reason of uncertainty. And then, as I said before, all physical systems are inherently non-linear, but we assume it to be linear and then we design a controller. So that means the linear model of the nonlinear actual plant will not be matching. Okay, and hence the control design may fail. Okay, all physical systems are inherently nonlinear. Physical systems are inherently nonlinear. Okay, then another possibility is at high frequencies, we do not know anything about the plant dynamics. Okay, at very high frequencies. Normally, control system or systems are operated in low frequency region. At high frequencies, because of the ignorance of high frequency dynamics, you cannot model it. And high frequency dynamics are not known to us most of the cases. Okay. At high frequencies, we almost know nothing. We almost know nothing about the plant. Or process structure. And model order. Okay, so at high frequencies, at low frequencies, we sufficiently have enough idea about the plant structure and the order, but at high frequencies, we do not know anything about the plant structure and the order. Why? Because system identification mostly concentrates in the low frequency region. Okay, control and model identification, control and model identification concentrates on low frequencies. Concentrate on low frequencies. Okay, that is the reason. Say for example, so let me draw here the body magnitude plot, okay, of an actual system, right? So this will be frequency in logarithmic scale. This will be the magnitude. Okay, I'm drawing only the body magnitude plot. So this is in decibel scale. Okay, so it may look something like this. Okay, say for example, so let this frequency be omega m. Right. So after omega m, you can see that the data is corrupted by noise, or there may be unmodeled high frequency dynamics. Okay, so we can say that after omega m, the data is of no use to us. Okay, so in the low frequency region, we can make use of the data. So this is a typical response of a second order system with 2 poles and 1 0. Okay, so we have complete data in the low frequency region, but in high frequency region, because of the unmodeled high frequency dynamics or the high frequency noise, you cannot know how the plant behaves in the high frequency region. Okay, that is another reason. Or sometimes deliberately we will try to reduce the complexity. Okay, deliberate simplification of the model. Deliberate simplification of the model. You might have heard of what is called model order reduction. Okay, so in model order reduction, we attempt to reduce the model order of the system model. Okay, because to work with high order models is pretty difficult. Okay, so we'll try to reduce its order to a much more lower level so that it is implementable and we can work with that. Okay, so deliberate simplification of the model could be another reason of uncertainty. It is easier to design. It is easier to design controllers for simple low order nominal model than a complicated detailed model. Detailed model. Okay, so deliberately we try to reduce the model order so that we can work with the reduced order model. Okay, then the fifth possible cause of uncertainty may be the controller itself. Uncertainty in the controller. Uncertainty in the controller. Okay, so for example, as I said before, we may when you designed a controller, you might have got a say 10th order controller. So we can reduce this order to maybe say 5th order or 2nd order, something like that. Okay, so in that process of reducing the model order, we are missing some of the dynamics. Okay, so that will lead to another cause of uncertainty. Deliberate reduction of controller order. Deliberate reduction of controller order. For simpler implementation. Okay, or there may be implementation issues of controller. Say like there may be finite floating point precision in computers, or there may be error or limit checking. Okay, so all these things are another possible source of uncertainty. Okay, implementation issues. Implementation issues of controller. Okay, so as I said before, like there may be finite floating point precision in computers. Okay, example. Finite floating point precision in computers, etc. Say when you designed your PID controller, you got say 10.8935620183 like that. Okay, but your computer or your controller may have a limitation. Okay, it may take the first 4 decimal places or first 6 decimal places. So when you discard the remaining places, decimal points, that will accumulate to a significant amount of uncertainty. Okay, so these are the possible causes of uncertainties. Okay, now robust control in general can be divided into 2. Okay, What is robust control? A control system is said to be robust if it is insensitive to model uncertainties. Okay, so we have to design a control system so that the total closed loop system becomes insensitive to the uncertainties. Okay, it should be stable, it should give satisfactory performance. Okay, even in the presence of model perturbations or model uncertainties. Okay, so this domain of robust control is divided into two. One is called robust controller design. Robust controller design. Okay, and the other one is called robustness analysis or performance. Robustness analysis or performance. Okay, so in robust controller design, what's our aim? We must design a controller so that the controller will give satisfactory performance even in the presence of uncertainties. Okay, we know the nominal plant. Okay, we know the uncertainties. So with the knowledge of this plant and the uncertainties, we are designing a controller. Okay, so this controller, when implemented, should give satisfactory performance even in the presence of uncertainties. That is what is robust control design. Aims to produce controllers that can tolerate uncertainties, Okay, so we have to design a controller so that it can tolerate the given set of uncertainties, right? So in robustness analysis or performance, we aim to evaluate how much uncertainties can be tolerated for a given controller. Okay, so you have designed you have a plan, you have a controller. Okay, so with that controller, how much errors or how much uncertainties can be tolerated? That is what we mean by robustness analysis or robustness performance. Okay, aims to evaluate how much uncertainties can be tolerated by any given controller. Okay, so after designing the robust controller, we need to do the robustness analysis or robustness performance to check whether the designed robust controller can tolerate the given set of uncertainties. Okay, so this is how the domain of robust control is divided. Okay, one is called the robust control design, and the other one is called robustness analysis or robustness performance. So now we need to characterize uncertainties. Okay, so that is mainly divided into two. Uncertainties can be classified. Uncertainties can be classified into two categories. Okay, the first one is called parametric uncertainty or structured uncertainty. Parametric uncertainty or structured uncertainty. Okay. Where do these originate from? These originate from the variations of physical parameters. Okay, these type of uncertainties originate from variations of physical parameters or arise because of a deliberate reduction in the complexity of a higher order mathematical model. Of the plant. Okay. Very often the designer has some knowledge about the specific parameter variations in the plant. For example, in the case of a resistance, you are given some tolerance bands. Okay, so we know the resistance can vary, say, a maximum of the maximum within the tolerance bands. Okay, so very often the designer will be having some knowledge in what range the parameter can change. Okay, so this is the cause of structured uncertainty. Okay, the structure of the model, including the order is known. Including the order is known. But some of the parameters are uncertain. Okay, so since structure is known, it is called structured uncertainty. Okay, that is why it is called structured uncertainty, right? We know the structure of the model, including the order, but some parameters are uncertain. So in such cases, such an uncertainty is termed as structured uncertainty. We know the structure, but some parameters are unknown, are uncertain. Okay, so these uncertainties, structured uncertainties, are quantified by assuming that each parameter is bounded. Each parameter is bounded by assuming that each parameter is bounded within some region. Okay. It can thus be assumed that each parameter's value is bounded. Okay, suppose I indicate my parameter as psi. Okay, so each parameter's value is bounded by a region. So there will be a maximum value, psi max, comma psi min. Okay, so this parameter psi in the system will be varying between psi max to psi min. Okay, it can be done assumed like that. Okay, so this gives parameter set This gives a family or a parameter set with psi equal to psi bar into 1 plus r psi delta. Okay, what does it mean? What is psi bar? Psi bar means the mean parameter value, where psi bar is the mean parameter value. Is the mean parameter value. And what is R psi? R psi will be nothing but psi max minus psi min divided by psi max plus psi min. Okay, is the relative parameter uncertainty. Is the relative parameter uncertainty. Okay, and what's delta? Delta is any real scalar, and delta is any real scalar with magnitude less than or equal to 1. Okay, so for example, let us take an example, it will be clear. Suppose you have a transfer function g of s equals, say, some g divided by s plus a. Okay, what's the order of the transfer function? First order. Okay, small g is the gain and a is the pole, minus a is the pole. Okay, with the parameters. So the parameters are given with the parameters. G is nothing but 1 plus minus 0.2 and a is nothing but 10 plus minus 0.2. Okay, so G can vary from 1.2 to 0.8 and a can vary from 10.3 to 9.7. Okay, so what's the nominal transfer function? Nominal transfer function. Nominal transfer function G naught. What will be that? It's nominal value 1 divided by s plus 10. Okay, so this actually represents a family of plants because the parameter G and A varies in this range. Okay, from G varies from 1.2 to 0.8 and A varies from 10.3 to 9.7. Okay, so there are infinite number of plants within this range. Okay, out of which 1 by s plus 10 is the nominal. Okay, so and what are the all possible models? How can you find the all possible models? All possible models are given by the set GP of S. GP of S is the perturbed plant. Okay, it belongs to the set pi, where the pi is the uncertainty set. Okay, and what is pi? Where the uncertainty set, pi is given by pi equals G by S plus A, such that 0.8 less than or equal to G less than or equal to 1.2 and 8.7 less than or equal to A less than or equal to 11.3. How to get 0.8 and 1.2? It is a lower limit and the upper limit. Okay, 1 minus 0.2 is 0.8 and 1 plus 0.2 is 1.2. So you can find what is the mean value. Okay. Similarly, for A, it is from 10.3 to 10.3. So what's the mean value here? It is 10.3 by 2. It should be 9.7, right? Not 8. It should be 9.7. Correct. 1.8. Yeah, 9.7. 9.7 to 10.3. 9.7 to 10.3. Yeah, it's a mistake here. 9.7 to 10.3. Right. So in this way, we can represent structured uncertainty. Okay. So the plant model and the order is known, but there is an uncertainty in the plant parameters G and A. This is what is called structured uncertainty. Now, the second category of perturbations is called unstructured uncertainty. There are different names in the literature. So I will write all those names. Okay. This is called non-parametric uncertainty or dynamic uncertainty or frequency dependent uncertainty, frequency dependent uncertainty or lumped dynamics uncertainty, or that is commonly called unstructured uncertainty. Unstructured uncertainty. Okay. So as the name implies, we do not know the structure of the uncertainty, but the only thing we know is that uncertainty is limited. It is bounded by some value. That's the only information that we have. Okay. In the previous case, we knew the structure of the uncertainty. Okay. The planned order and the model was known to us, but only one or two parameters were changing. But here, we do not have any idea about how the uncertainty varies. The structure of uncertainty is not known to us. But we only know, the only information that we have is that it is bounded, it is finite by some value. Okay, that's the difference. These give a more general description. These uncertainties give a more general description of possible planned or model uncertainties or model uncertainties. They typically occur with these typically occur when higher order dynamics, higher order dynamics are neglected during model order reduction. During model order reduction or linearization of a nonlinear system model. Etc. Okay, so these are the sources of unstructured uncertainties. Okay, so any model of a real system will contain this source of uncertainty. This source of uncertainty. Okay, so any model of a real system will contain this source of uncertainty. Many dynamic perturbations that occur, many dynamic perturbations that occur in different parts of a system, in different parts of a system can be lumped into one single perturbation block, into one single perturbation block, delta of S. That is why it is also called lumped dynamics uncertainty. Okay, so it is called non-parametric uncertainty or dynamic uncertainty or frequency dependent uncertainty or lumped dynamics uncertainty. Okay. And this uncertainty representation is called, and this uncertainty representation is called unstructured uncertainty. Okay, so delta of S is assumed to be a stable transfer function. Okay, because we do not know what's the internal structure, right? Only thing is that we know that the delta, the perturbation block must be limited. Okay, we know its magnitude. Okay, it's limited, right? But we do not know what's the internal structure of the delta block. Okay, so delta block will represent the different perturbations that occur in different parts of a system. Okay, all these things will be pulled into one single block called delta, right? So structure is not known to us, right? But we know that the delta block as a whole must be limited, should be less than 1 or 5 or whatever it is. Okay, we have only an idea about the value of the block, but not about the order or the model. Okay, so we assume delta is assumed to be a stable transfer matrix. To be a stable transfer matrix. Having the same dimension. Having the same dimension as the model, as the nominal model. As the nominal model. Why it is assumed to be stable transfer function? Because we are dealing with stable systems. Okay. Only we are designing controllers for stable systems. Okay. So our perturbation must also be stable. Right? That is why we assume delta of S to be a stable transfer matrix. Okay, and having the same dimension as the nominal model. And this matrix can have any structure at all. This matrix can have any structure at all. Okay, so the only restriction or the only information that we have, the only restriction on unstructured perturbations is on their size. Which is measured by the infinity norm. Which is measured by the infinity norm. Okay, and we know infinite norm is nothing but the maximum singular value. Okay, so it has, so the only restriction on unstructured perturbations is on their size. Okay, so we know that it should be bounded by the infinite norm, right? And it has no specific structural aspects and has no specific structural aspects. Okay, thus the unstructured uncertainty, is represented by the bound on the largest singular value. Largest singular value, sigma bar. Okay, so we specify that sigma bar of delta of G omega should be less than or equal to 1 for every frequency. Okay, which is equivalent to binding, bounding the infinity norm. Less than or equal to 1. Okay, so this is the difference between structured and unstructured uncertainties. So now let us see how we can represent this in different ways. Okay, So this uncertainty can occur in a system in many different ways. So we will now see how we can represent these kinds of uncertainties. Okay. So let me assume that GP of S. Okay, let GP of S denote the perturbed plant. The perturbed plant. Okay, and G naught of S denote the nominal plant. The nominal plant. Okay, so this unstructured dynamics uncertainty can be represented in many different ways. First one is called additive perturbation. Additive perturbation. Okay, so that means this is our nominal plant, G naught of S. Okay, the perturbation can appear as an additive element like this. This is delta of S. Keep in mind, delta of S is stable and has the same order as that of G naught of S. Okay. So this represents my perturbed plant. This is my GP of S. This is the perturbed plant. Okay. So what will you get? What will be GP of S? GP of S will be nothing but G naught of S plus delta of S. Okay. This will be the perturbed plant in terms of the nominal plant model G naught of S and the perturbation delta of S. Okay. This is called additive perturbation. Then we have what is called inverse additive perturbation. Inverse additive perturbation. Okay, so here what happens? This is our summing point. This is our nominal plant. Okay, the perturbation block will appear as if it is in a feedback path like this. Delta of S. Okay, this is plus minus, right? So what will be the perturbed plant GP of S? How can I write this? Yes, tell me. I can write this. This is somewhat like in feedback configuration, right? So G naught divided by 1 plus G naught delta. Okay, so let us see what you are getting. What will be GP? This is my GP of S. GP of S will be what? G naught of S divided by 1 plus G naught of S delta of S. Okay, so what will be GP inverse? What will be that? 1 plus G naught of S into delta of S whole divided by G naught of S. Okay, so we'll get 1 by G naught of S plus delta of S, or I can write this as G naught of S inverse plus delta of S. Okay, so my GP of S inverse will be what? Nothing but G naught of S inverse plus delta of S. Okay, this will be inverse additive perturbation. Fine. So till now, it was appearing as an additive element, right? Now we will see when it appears as a multiplicative perturbation. That is input multiplicative perturbation. Multiplicative perturbation. Okay, so here we have again, as before, a summing point, right? Here is our delta of S. Fine. Then that is coming here at the posterior this thing. This is our G naught. Okay, so this will be our perturbed plant. So what will be perturbed plant GP of S? What can we write? So you see it is getting multiplied. Okay, G naught of S into what? G naught of S into. So if it is a single input into plant, you will get 1 plus delta of S. If it's a multivariable system, then you will have to write it in terms of identity matrix I plus delta of S. Okay, I plus delta of S. Right? This is the case of input multiplicative perturbation. The perturbation appears as a multiplicative factor in the input of the plant of the nominal plant. Next is output multiplicative perturbation. Output multiplicative perturbation. Okay. So in output multiplicative perturbation, this perturbation appears at the output side of the plant. This is G naught of S. This is our summing point. Here is our perturbation block. Delta of S comes here. Plus. This is this thing. So what will be our perturb plant? Any idea? Tell me, just think and tell me. This is our perturb plant. GP of S. What will you get? It is very easy. GP of S will be what? I plus delta of S into I plus delta of S into G naught of S. Okay. So here, what's the difference between the two? Here, it appeared in the input side of the nominal plant model, whereas here, the perturbation appears as the multiplicative factor in the output side of the nominal model. Okay. That is another way of representing a structured uncertainty in a model. Structured uncertainty in a model. Next is inverse input multiplicative perturbation. Inverse input multiplicative perturbation. Okay. Here what happens is that this is the summing point. This is our plant. And our perturbation will appear like this. Delta of S. Plus minus. Okay. So this will be our perturbed plant. GP of S. Okay. So what will be GP of S inverse? How can we write? It will be nothing but I plus delta of S into G naught of S. How will you get this? So first you find what is GP of S. What is GP of S? GP of S is nothing but G naught into into what? So this is the feedback. This gain is 1. Okay. So 1 divided by I plus delta. 1 divided by I plus delta. Is it not? Because this is in feedback, right? This gain is 1. This is negative feedback. So G divided by 1 plus the GH or delta. Okay. So what will be GP inverse? GP inverse will be what? I plus delta divided by G naught. Or that can be written as I plus delta into G naught inverse. Oh, see, it is missing. G naught of S inverse. It's missing here. Okay, that's how you get this expression. Okay, when the unstructured uncertainty is appearing as inverse input multiplicative perturbation. So same thing can appear in the output side. Inverse output multiplicative perturbation. 6. Inverse output multiplicative perturbation. Okay, so here what happens? The perturbation appears in the on the output side of the this thing of the nominal plant like this. So here we have the nominal plant G naught. Then we have the summing point, this thing. Then here we have delta. Okay, so this will be our GP of S, the perturbed plant. Okay, this is plus minus. So what will be GP of S inverse here? You can try it off your own. Okay, if you're not getting, you can get back to me. I will help you. So you will get G naught of S inverse into I plus delta. Just try in the similar way. Okay, you will get that. Okay. So in this lecture, we had seen what are the kinds of uncertainties. What are the possible causes of uncertainties? Okay, and how the uncertainties or the perturbations can be classified. They are mainly classified into two types. One is structured uncertainty and the other one is unstructured uncertainty. So in structured uncertainty, we know the plant model and the plant order. But in unstructured uncertainty, we have no idea about the structure or the order of the uncertainties. Okay, so they have to be clubbed together, and the only information that we have in the case of unstructured uncertainty is that they are bounded in magnitude. Okay, in magnitude by their infinity norm, right? So infinity norm is nothing but the maximum singular value. So their maximum singular value should be bounded. It should be less than or equal to 1. Okay, so I will stop here and take up a new topic in the next class. Thank you.